Centro de Investigaciones sobre América del Norte de la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México. Estamos muy honrados por tener esta mañana a un académico sobresaliente, un experto en temas de seguridad, que viene del International Institute for Strategic Studies de la Gran Bretaña. Él es el doctor Mark Fitzpatrick, y en esta ocasión nos va a presentar la ponencia International Security and Nuclear Challenges, Iran and North Korea. Sin lugar a dudas, un tema de gran interés en este mundo cada vez más complejo. Y con esto el Centro de Investigaciones sobre América del Norte ratifica su compromiso para analizar y convocar voces del mayor prestigio para llevar a cabo un diálogo de temas que sin lugar a dudas tocan a nuestro país. La seguridad es un tema, a todas luces, un tema global, y no podemos omitir el análisis de lo que sucede en Irán y en Corea del Norte, por lo cual quiero también expresar un agradecimiento muy especial al doctor Raúl Benítez Manaut, un distinguido investigador del CISAN, quien ha hecho posible que esta mañana tengamos aquí en el centro al doctor Mark Fitzpatrick. El doctor Fitzpatrick dará una ponencia, después el doctor Benítez dará algunos comentarios para luego darles el uso de la palabra y que ustedes puedan también plantear algunas preguntas. Yo nada más quisiera pedirles que cuando lo hagan, de cada uno de ustedes su nombre, la facultad o la institución de la cual provienen, para que el profesor Fitzpatrick tenga una idea de la universidad, del público que nos acompaña esta mañana, y que sean preguntas muy concisas para que el tiempo no nos rebase. Bueno, el profesor Fitzpatrick recibió el grado de maestro en políticas públicas en el Kennedy School of Government de la Universidad de Harvard, y además hizo estudios de posgrado en la Japanese National Institute of Defense, donde su tesis de disertación se versó precisamente sobre el tema de Japón y Corea del Sur. Después de 10 años al frente del International Institute for Strategic Studies y Non-Proliferation and Nuclear Public Policies, el profesor se mudó a Washington para fungir precisamente como el director ejecutivo de este organismo. El profesor Fitzpatrick centra su investigación, su trabajo precisamente en los peligros nucleares, la no proliferación nuclear y el control de armas. Es autor de múltiples obras, una de ellas intitulada Asia's Latent Nuclear Powers, Japan, South Korea and Taiwan. Otra más, The Iranian Nuclear Crisis, Avoiding Worst Case Outcomes. El doctor Fitzpatrick ha servido también en la misión de los Estados Unidos en Viena. Perdón, es que todo está en inglés y en español. This is the reason why, well, including ha estado a cargo de la consejería sobre temas nucleares, y ha fungido también como liaison con la Agencia Internacional de Energía Atómica. It is a pleasure having you here, Professor Patrick. As I mentioned before, you need to come back. Please. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Director Nunez. I feel very embarrassed. I have to explain that I'm not a professor, nor am I a doctor. I never got the qualifications that you did. I got mine through experience in the diplomatic corps. and then working as a researcher in London for the past 10 years. It's very nice to come to this university. It's my first time to come here in over 45 years. I came here as a boy, just as a tourist, and to see the library again, it's very nice. So we're going to do this without translation. Is it okay? Oh, it's simultaneous.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
Yes.
perfect, perfect. Right. Okay, this week in Washington, there's a focus on problems of nuclear terrorism. Your president is one of 50 global leaders meeting in Washington tomorrow for the 4th Nuclear Security Summit. I'm rushing back tonight to attend. I attended the one in the Netherlands 2 years ago, and this Nuclear Security Summit is focused on the potential problem posed by non-state actors, terrorist groups which might want to use nuclear weapons or nuclear radiological dirty bombs to terrorize populations. The focus of the event is to prevent terrorists from obtaining nuclear materials. The focus is on the supply of nuclear materials to make sure that all nuclear materials are secured, consolidated, so that terrorist groups cannot obtain them. The focus is on the supply, and it's on non-state actors. But my talk today is not about non-state actors. It's about state actors that pose the greatest challenges, or that have posed the greatest challenges in nuclear proliferation. And over the past year, the world has seen one very good success in dealing with these challenges. The successful agreement reached with Iran last July. But meantime, the world is still faced with very serious problems posed by North Korea. So we've had a success with Iran, a continued failure with North Korea. And I'd like to talk a little bit about why we were able to succeed in one case and failed in the other, and how the lessons from one might be applied to the other. I've been working my entire diplomatic career on the problem of North Korea. And it has had successes along the way, but each time there was a diplomatic achievement, North Korea violated the agreement in pursuit of nuclear weapons. North Korea joined the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty under pressure by the then Soviet Union. But looking back historically, I don't think that North Korea ever was serious about honoring its commitments under the NPT. It looks to me as though North Korea always intended to violate the NPT and always intended to get nuclear weapons. They saw that the United States, Soviet Union, and China had nuclear weapons, and they wanted to follow suit. They thought that this was the only way they could protect themselves from what they saw as very powerful nations posing a threat to them. I'm going to deal with the North Korean case in a little bit, but a big contrast between North Korea and Iran is that Iran wanted a nuclear hedging strategy. They wanted an option for nuclear weapons, but it's never clear that Iran wanted actually to build nuclear weapons. In the 1980s, Iran was attacked by Iraq with chemical weapons. And in response, Iranians thought they should have some form of option for weapons of mass destruction themselves. So they began a uranium enrichment program to give them an option for producing nuclear weapons. But they didn't work at it very fast. They have been working on uranium enrichment for 35 years, and they They stopped recently. They're willing to postpone the option to have nuclear weapons for 15 years. The deal that was struck last July postponed for 15 years Iran's ability to acquire the capability to produce nuclear weapons. During these 15 years, Iran will accept intrusive inspections by the International Atomic Energy Agency. And it is hoped that during these 15 years of intrusive inspections, trust will be built up between Iran and other countries, so that even when the limits are lifted in 15 years, the trust will be maintained. The inspections will be continued. And Iran will still realize that it doesn't need to have nuclear weapons. It can maintain its defense through diplomacy and by having a nuclear hedging strategy, nuclear weapons potentially in the future if it wanted to go that way, but it couldn't get them very quickly. Another big difference between Iran and North Korea is that under Iran's religious edict, nuclear weapons are haram. They're forbidden under their interpretation of Islam. It's a very important basis because it provided a common basis for negotiation. Iran said nuclear weapons are haram, and its negotiating partners wanted to prevent it from having nuclear weapons. So they had something upon which to build. Now, many people say, well, you know, Iran's religious edict could be changed. How can you be sure? I think we have to respect people's religion, and so the United States tried to use this as a building block, and it was successful. Two other reasons that the Iran deal succeeded is that it was a good combination of diplomacy that relied both on disincentives and incentives. The disincentives were in the form of economic and political sanctions that prevented Iran from having normal interactions with the rest of the world. They became isolated politically and economically. Iran was prevented from selling oil to the European Union, and its oil sales to the rest of the world were dramatically reduced. Its companies were prevented from engaging in the international economy. Its banks were frozen out of the international financial system. Its banks were unable to use the normal avenues of financial communications governed by the system based in Belgium. And although Iran's economy was not sinking, it wasn't growing. The sanctions, they didn't strangle Iran, but they prevented it from growing. And it became more and more burdensome to the Iranian economy. But sanctions alone did not force Iran to negotiate. There had to be incentives. Most countries do not just bend to sanctions and say, okay, we give up, we respond to pressure. Most countries respond to pressure by trying to put pressure themselves. And for many years, Iran responded to pressure by building up its nuclear program. For many years, the more sanctions that were applied, the more Iran built up its program by building centrifuges to enrich uranium. There was a race between sanctions and centrifuges, and the centrifuges were winning the race. So the United States realized 2 years ago that they couldn't stop Iran from having enrichment entirely. The policy used to be no uranium enrichment. You have to have zero. And Iran just was not going to accept zero. Few countries would accept to give up entirely something that is deemed to be the inalienable right of states to have nuclear technology for civilian purposes. So the United States realized that Iran would not accept zero, but maybe it would accept limited enrichment. The United States made a big compromise to move from zero to limited, and then Iran made a big compromise to move from unlimited to limited. and they found a compromise that would work. This compromise is under challenge today, both in Washington and in Iran. In Washington, it's under challenge because the nuclear agreement only dealt with nuclear development. It did not address ballistic missiles. And Iran's hardline military continues to develop missiles that could hit Israel, that could hit parts of Europe, that could hit Saudi Arabia. And it's not prohibited by either the agreement or by the United Nations Security Council. But it violates the spirit of the agreement and the spirit of the Security Council resolutions. The most recent resolution of the Security Council, number 2231, adopted last July, calls upon Iran to stop developing missiles that are designed for nuclear weapons. The wording calls upon does not make it mandatory, but the spirit was to stop it. Iran has been testing many missiles in the last few months. It's not a violation of the resolution, but the United States and other members of the Security Council yesterday sent a letter saying that Iran's missile development was in defiance of the Security Council. Defiance does not mean violation, but it means defying the spirit of the resolution. Because of this defiance, groups in Washington, particularly members of the Congress, believe that Iran is cheating. And so they want to impose new sanctions on Iran. If there are new sanctions imposed on Iran, Iran will feel that it's a violation of the spirit of the agreement itself, and then Iran will probably respond by increasing the missile development, and we'll be back into this cycle of tit for tat. So I'm worried about what's developing. I think we need new negotiations with Iran and its missile program, and they probably need to be multilateral negotiations, because Iran is not the only country in the Middle East developing missiles. Israel has them. Saudi Arabia is developing them or buying them from China. So I think a multilateral regional missile development moratorium is the best way to address this problem, not just more sanctions. Maybe some more sanctions would create some leverage, but we need also diplomacy and engagement. So the key thing I want to stress here is that diplomacy works when you have people on both sides willing to make compromises. Iran elected a new president in 2013, Hassan Rouhani. He's not a moderate, but he's pragmatic. He was willing to undertake negotiations and to seek compromises. And the United States had a president, Barack Obama, who was willing to accept compromises. And the United Kingdom had a prime minister, David Cameron, similarly willing to compromise. So there was a congruence on both sides, a willingness to compromise. Now in the case of North Korea, I don't know that we have the same willingness to compromise on both sides. Over the past 20 years, the United States and its partners in South Korea and Japan have tried several times to negotiate with North Korea. There was one successful negotiation in 1994. North Korea agreed to stop its plutonium development program, but it cheated by pursuing uranium enrichment. Plutonium and uranium enrichment are the two paths to a nuclear weapon. Uranium enrichment was the bomb that the United States used to destroy Hiroshima in 1945. Plutonium was the basis for the bomb that destroyed Nagasaki 3 days later on August 9, 1945. These two paths to the bomb. North Korea agreed in 1994 to stop the plutonium path, but they pursued secretly uranium enrichment path. The United States and its partners discovered this and challenged North Korea, and the deal broke down. They tried again in 2005 through something called the Six-Party Talks. the North and South Korea, and it each had two partners. South Korea had the United States and Japan, North Korea had Russia and China. 6 parties. And they agreed on a basis for negotiation on September 19, 2005, joint statement. North Korea agreed to denuclearize. And all the parties agreed to normalize relations. The United States would have relations with North Korea and Japan would normalize their relationship. Japan would have provided assistance, economic assistance. But it all fell apart very soon. The United States applied sanctions because of North Korea's counterfeiting operations, counterfeiting U.S. currency and drug smuggling. And North Korea tested a nuclear weapon in 2006 in defiance. And they tried to patch things up in 2007. North Korea destroyed part of its facilities, but North Korea never agreed to the verification measures required for confidence that they really destroyed everything. And since 2007, there hasn't been any successful diplomacy. Well, there was success for 3 weeks. In 2012, the United States reached a deal on February 29th, Leap Day, famous Leap Day deal. North Korea agreed to stop testing nuclear weapons, to stop testing long-range rockets. But 3 weeks later, North Korea announced it would launch a long-range rocket. So we just were thinking, what are they thinking? They agreed to a deal, and then 3 weeks later, they break the deal. This was a slap in the face of President Obama, who thereafter saw no reason to deal with these people. Obama was willing to negotiate with Iran, but he's not really willing to put effort into negotiating with North Korea because they violated the deal. We thought that Kim Jong-un, the new leader of North Korea, who succeeded his father in 2012, December 2012. December 2011. His father died suddenly, and he came to power. And we all thought, good, this young guy, he was educated in Switzerland. He must be liberal, right? Switzerland. Well, we thought he would be like Gorbachev, you know, perestroika and transparency. Turned out he was more like Stalin. He killed his uncle. He killed the generals who were assisting his transition. Everybody who seems to be a threat to him, he's been killing. So, and then he violated the Leap Day deal in 3 weeks' time. So, America has no faith that this guy, Kim Jong-un, is a responsible partner. But I think maybe we are giving up too soon. Maybe we should press a little bit more. I don't think we know the man. You know, he's easy to make fun of. You know, he's fat. He has a funny hairdo. You know, he spends time with American basketball player Dennis Rodman. He's a weird guy. But it's so odd. The only American who knows Kim Jong-un is Dennis Rodman. Other Americans tried to meet him, but he doesn't want to meet. I think we need to try harder to find out what's in his mind and try to change his mind or offer him something. See if he would be willing. I doubt that he would be willing. I think that North Korea will not give up nuclear weapons ever. They say so. Or they say, as long as the United States has nuclear weapons, North Korea will have nuclear weapons. Oh, it's fair, right? Come on. North Korea is not in the same league as the United States. And the United States is not seeking to invade North Korea or to destroy North Korea. The United States wants a stable North Korea. Ultimately, the United States would be happy with unification of the peninsula. Unification that would probably be like the German unification of the larger, democratic, market-oriented part swallowing the rest of it. Well, the rest of it doesn't like to be swallowed, but the people wanted it in the case of Germany. And I think that might happen in Korea sometime. And my belief is that North Korea, if they really insist that they never will give up nuclear weapons until the United States does, maybe the best solution is no more North Korea. A Korea that is peaceful, unified peninsula that is nuclear weapons free. But it would be very messy. Unification would probably be very messy. So I don't advocate we should try to overthrow the North Korean regime. I don't advocate violence to overthrow it. I do advocate giving the North Korean people information, that they understand what their leader is like, that they understand that South Korean people are freer and have a much, much better life. And if the North Korean people know that the South Korean cousins are better off, maybe they would like to be like the cousins. Just as the East Germans, because they had information from West Germany, they decided to join the cousins in Western Germany. And now they're much better off in Eastern Germany than they were before unification. And I think in the North Korean case, they will be much better off after unification. But I think we should at least try to negotiate, try to find both sanctions and incentives. Sanctions are being adopted now stronger than ever. China agreed to the most stringent sanctions on North Korea last month. And for the first time, China seems to be willing to put real pressure on North Korea. We always think China is the key because China provides most of North Korea's oil, most of its investment, most of its trade. But China always was reluctant to give real pressure to North Korea because it feared that North Korea would implode and there would be a crisis of migration. The migrants from North Korea would go to China and create instability. So China didn't want that. But China now, and the reason China is willing to put sanctions on North Korea is because they're afraid of what South Korea might do. South Korea is introducing a ballistic missile defense, which could impact China's security. South Koreans are also talking about developing their own nuclear weapons. This is a very, very dangerous development. Not the South Korean government. South Korean government, like the Mexican government, is very pure about its non-proliferation obligations. But many South Korean politicians are saying, we need our own nuclear weapons. Because the United States could not prevent North Korea from getting nuclear weapons. It's getting worse and worse. And we need to do something ourselves. Cannot rely upon the United States. I argue with South Koreans, you can rely upon the United States. The United States provides a nuclear umbrella. The United States has a strong alliance with South Korea. The United States will be there for you. The United States can be depended upon. The United States is credible. And then they say to me, look at what's happening with this one guy in the United States named Donald Trump, who is saying that the United States should withdraw its security guarantees. The United States should let South Korea go nuclear. People around the world have many reasons to be worried about Donald Trump. I'm worried about this reason. I don't think he'll ever become president, because most Americans hate him. But the fact that he's talking this way now undermines America's credibility. And this creates a dynamic in South Korea that many people there think they cannot rely upon the United States. Credibility is a matter of perception, and that's what I'm worried about. So maybe I'll stop right there and entertain comments, criticism, and questions.
Muchísimas gracias. Paso la palabra al doctor Raúl Benítez Manaúz. Quisiera ir planteando al profesor una serie de cuestiones que me parecen interesantes y que salen precisamente de su espléndida exposición. Una de ellas es el tema usted mencionó el tema de religión, y la pregunta sería si es posible que religión y seguridad vengan de la mano en algún momento para la construcción de un mejor futuro en el mundo. Otra de las cuestiones que me parece muy importante que subrayó en su exposición es el hecho de que el acuerdo entre Estados Unidos e Irán fue un acuerdo incompleto y por lo tanto los riesgos que plantea el asunto de los misiles balísticos están sobre la mesa, y si esto de alguna manera, dado el escenario electoral que se está planteando en los Estados Unidos, ya ha sido mencionado de alguna manera por los precandidatos, pero cómo se perfilará ya en la contienda por la presidencia después de las convenciones un tema tan complejo como este. Me parece también muy sobresaliente que usted haya mencionado como un escenario prospectivo el asunto de la reunificación de Corea. El otro día teníamos aquí un debate en donde se analizaba precisamente, algunos expertos decían que obviamente China no estaría para nada en favor de la reunificación de Corea, pero tampoco Japón, porque plantearía de alguna forma el fortalecimiento de Corea, muy en el estilo que usted mencionó incluso de lo que ha sucedido con la Alemania reunificada. Entonces me parece que esto va a ser algunos de los temas que podríamos discutir a la hora del debate. Y bueno, Raúl Benítez, quisiera yo decirles que es un distinguido investigador de este centro, coordinador del área de estudios de la integración. Él hizo su posgrado en el CIDE, en el Centro de Investigación y Docencia Económicas, y tiene un trabajo doctoral en estudios latinoamericanos por esta misma universidad. Es además el presidente de CACEDE, el colectivo de análisis sobre seguridad y democracia. Tiene muchas publicaciones que versan sobre los temas de seguridad y geopolítica en América Latina y su relación con América del Norte, además de que en la actualidad está analizando la relación entre la seguridad nacional y el crimen organizado en México, y sobre todo la impronta que en este escenario tienen los Estados Unidos. Raúl, bienvenido, y nuevamente muchas gracias por hacer posible esta sesión.
Buenos días a todos. Yo agradezco mucho la disertación, la conferencia del profesor Marc, porque nos ilustra dos de los aspectos más relevantes que están generando una tremenda crisis a nivel internacional en el ámbito de la seguridad, que es el tema nuclear. Mañana será la gran cumbre de Washington sobre qué hacer y cómo parar la posible proliferación de artefactos nucleares, de material para preparar bombas nucleares, etcétera. Y la conferencia del profesor pues es muy a tiempo para poder discutir estos problemas, y estos problemas se vienen acumulando desde, en el caso del Medio Oriente, se vienen acumulando desde las ofensivas que ha hecho el Estado Islámico, pues ahora sí que contra todo el mundo que se quiera poner ahí, porque es la población, son las ruinas arqueológicas más viejas del mundo, son objetivo militar del ISIS. No hay ninguna distinción entre estados, no estados, fronteras. No les importa el tema de las consecuencias humanitarias de sus acciones, con el millón de refugiados que están buscando salvar su vida en Europa, etcétera. Ahora, aquí el profesor es un experto muy conocedor del asunto nuclear en la península coreana y en Medio Oriente. Hizo una comparación muy buena, marcando similitudes y diferencias del caso. Yo quiero señalar algunas de las diferencias más interesantes. Lo que señaló la profesora Silvia Núñez, el tema de religión y seguridad. En la península coreana la religión prácticamente está fuera de el lugar en este debate, y sin embargo en el Medio Oriente pues la religión parece ser el 90% de las cosas que suceden en términos de amenazas a la seguridad en el Medio Oriente. En la península coreana no hay actores no estatales en la crisis, y ni siquiera como smugglers, como traficantes de materiales nucleares. Es una crisis netamente estatal, mientras que en el Medio Oriente se está convirtiendo una crisis de todos contra todos, estados contra estados, estados contra movimientos islámicos, grupos islámicos que toman las armas, y no tomaron cualquier arma. O sea, el ISIS pues tomó muchos remanentes de armas que se quedaron en Irak, etcétera. Entonces, el tratamiento de las dos crisis, obviamente para las superpotencias es muy distinto. La crisis de la península coreana, por ejemplo, a Europa no la afecta directamente. Entonces es una crisis que afecta a las otras potencias, a Estados Unidos, a Japón y, bueno, por supuesto, Corea del Sur y China. En cambio, la crisis del Medio Oriente, Europa es el principal epicentro de la crisis, mientras que China, Japón, Estados Unidos, pues son afectados muy colateralmente por la crisis del Medio Oriente, quizás excepto por el tema energético. Pero el tema energético, como vimos con todo el movimiento de precios provocado en parte por la entrada de Irán a los mercados energéticos, pues vamos a decir que está en contra de los países productores como México, pero está en beneficio de los países, de los ciudadanos consumidores de energía. Entonces podríamos decir que incluso la entrada de Irán al mundo vendedor de petróleo, pues el 99% de los estadounidenses están felices con la baja del precio de la energía. Entonces este tipo de cuestiones marcan muchas diferencias de las dos crisis, pero hay un elemento en común, que es el tema del tema nuclear, la proliferación nuclear, la eficiencia o no de los acuerdos firmados en el siglo XX para parar la carrera armamentista nuclear a distintos niveles, y esto fue muy abordado con mucha precisión por el profesor Kilpatrick. Sin embargo, creo que habría que enfocar mi comentario al factor ISIS. Yo creo que la convocatoria de la cumbre nuclear tiene de telón de fondo el impacto que tiene un grupo armado irregular que tiene la pretensión incluso de ser Estado. O sea, los candidatos a la presidencia de Estados Unidos, Sanders, Trump, Hillary y Ted Cruz, han dicho literalmente que el Estado Islámico está liderado por un grupo de salvajes. Sanders usó esa palabra, Trump también usó esa palabra, a los cuales hay que eliminar de la faz de la tierra, con lo cual yo incluso podría coincidir. El tema es cómo se va a hacer eso, porque aquí la cuestión es que ¿cómo nace ISIS? Es la pregunta. ISIS nace de una Al-Qaeda muy golpeada por todas las estrategias de Estados Unidos, nace de una ocupación de Estados Unidos en Irak que no logró resolver los problemas de construcción institucional y política para poder neutralizar los liderazgos religioso-políticos radicales en Irak, y de una salida abrupta de Irak por los Estados Unidos, una salida rápida de Estados Unidos en Irak, producto de una promesa de campaña del presidente Barack Obama. Y precisamente el epicentro de ISIS sale de la ciudad de Mosul, y como ISIS no tiene fronteras, pues el califato da hasta donde puedan llegar sus miembros, y entonces atravesó fácilmente las fronteras de Siria, porque en Siria no hay un Estado que controle todo el territorio, porque vive una guerra civil desde hace 5 años, guerra civil con grupos armados que están desafiando la gestión del Estado sirio, desde la llamada primavera árabe y la forma tan represiva con que el propio Estado sirio trató de contener la primavera árabe. Eso se convierte en una bola de nieve, y entonces tenemos nosotros una gran cantidad de grupos armados, el cual en este momento ISIS es la amenaza mayor a la seguridad internacional que tenemos. Y esto provoca crisis paralelas de seguridad, como el tema de la migración. Hasta hace 5 o 6 años antes de la primavera árabe, el tema de flujos de migración masiva por miles o millones atentando la estabilidad de las sociedades europeas no se había dado. Pero con las primaveras árabes y la respuesta islámica, por ejemplo, la primera respuesta islámica política, la caída de Mubarak y la llegada del Estado Islámico en Egipto, empieza a perfilar cómo estaba afectando a las poblaciones de los países estos vaivenes tan bruscos de la política interna de esos países, la caída de los dictadores de la época de la Guerra Fría, la emergencia de movimientos pro-occidentales como era la primavera árabe, pro-occidentales y urbanos, y luego la toma del poder de los movimientos islámicos, y dentro de esos movimientos islámicos hay una gama de diferencias donde la máxima radicalidad está en el ISIS. Entonces, ¿qué va a pasar mañana en la conferencia de Washington? Una conferencia que de forma asombrosa convoca a la gran mayoría de los líderes, y la preocupación es que no caigan en manos de ISIS los materiales nucleares, que no empiecen a circular en el mercado negro materiales nucleares para producir bombas, porque en manos de esos señores sí es una amenaza a la seguridad global el material nuclear. Se hablaba de lo mismo hace 20 años en la Yugoslavia, y cómo se podían vender materiales e insumos nucleares cuando se desmantela la ex Unión Soviética, y si gobernantes que eran en aquella época definidos como el eje del mal, como Muammar Gaddafi, etcétera, podían adquirir esos materiales en aquellos años. Pero en esta época Muammar Gaddafi al final de cuentas era un líder de un estado, como es el jefe de estado en Corea. Pero el ISIS no es un estado, no quiere tener reconocimiento de la ONU, no quiere tener un asiento en la ONU, no quiere tener bandera, quiere destruir, quiere expulsar a los sirios que no están con ellos. Entonces esto genera una serie de problemáticas de seguridad inéditas y con un tremendo impacto. Yo con esto, profesor, dejo este comentario porque obviamente hay muchísimas preguntas no resueltas que ni siquiera los líderes van a poder resolver mañana en sus debates en Washington, y también dejar ideas para poder discutir con el público. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Raúl, por tus excelentes comentarios que van a enriquecer sin duda alguna la posibilidad del debate. Bueno, pues ahora continuamos ya con la parte que les toca a todos ustedes. Así que, por favor, embajador, I would like to introduce you to Ambassador Navarrete. We are delighted to have you, embajador. Bienvenidos a su casa.
Estoy muy agradecido por la plática que hemos escuchado, que resultó para mí muy gratamente sorprendente, en el sentido de traer un enfoque fresco, muy sobre los temas del momento, pero en una perspectiva de amplio alcance, de largo plazo. Y es en esa perspectiva de largo plazo en que yo quisiera plantear mi pregunta. Me pareció sumamente interesante la idea de continuar lo que podría llamarse el espíritu del acuerdo con Irán de 2015, para complementar los puntos aún pendientes, sobre todo la cuestión de los proyectiles balísticos y la idea de una moratoria en el desarrollo de estos vectores que se expresó. Me parece sumamente interesante. La pregunta sería la siguiente: ¿Irán aceptó estas limitaciones a sus opciones de desarrollo nuclear, aún en una situación regional en que otros actores, particularmente Israel, no solo no han aceptado limitaciones, tampoco han aceptado disponer de armamento nuclear? ¿Sería factible, sin incluir compromisos de otros estados, avanzar también en la limitación o la moratoria del desarrollo balístico? Yo creo que podría ser pedir demasiado. Y por otro lado, pensar que todos pudieran participar es difícil, porque han fracasado muchos intentos de buscar una zona desnuclearizada en el Medio Oriente. Gracias.
Dos preguntas más para que el profesor pueda responder el primer bloque, por favor.
Gracias. Jorge Suárez, de la Facultad de Ciencias Políticas y Sociales. Primero que nada, yo quisiera recalcar que la conducta de Corea del Norte puede ser todo menos irracional desde mi punto de vista. Gran parte de las violaciones que se ha hecho a los acuerdos pactados ha sido en parte porque su contraparte no ha cumplido. El acuerdo de 1994, el Senado no lo aprobó, el Senado estadounidense no lo aprobó, razón por la cual en el 97 lanzan el TEPO-NO. Pero todo esto es diferente con Clinton, donde sí hay una disposición por negociar, que precisamente en el 2000, previo a la cumbre o posterior a la cumbre, no recuerdo, de los presidentes del presidente surcoreano y Kim Jong-il, Madeleine Albright visita Pyongyang, se estaban a un paso de llegar a la consolidación de relaciones, establecimiento de relaciones, comercio, etcétera. Pero es con Bush en 2000, a finales del 2000, 2001 que se va al traste de todo esto, ¿no? Y es precisamente porque no respetan lo pactado en 1994, porque no avanzaron en el sentido de las negociaciones con Madeleine Albright, igual en el 2005, que se llegó a un acuerdo, pero Estados Unidos no respetó ese acuerdo y congeló los activos de todas las plantas norcoreanas con los que habían acordado que no lo iban a hacer. Pero yo coincido con su punto de vista de que es necesario incentivos con sanciones. Sin embargo, hemos visto muchas sanciones y cero incentivos. Aquí el problema con Corea del Norte es cómo establecer los incentivos si como precondición para cualquier tipo de negociación a partir de Bush y Obama y posterior, yo creo que el siguiente presidente también va a tener esa precondición, va a ser la desnuclearización total de Corea. Entonces, ¿cómo pedirle a un país, a tu contraparte, que su único sustento de Estado, de seguridad, y digamos de seguridad económica y seguridad digamos nacional es las armas nucleares, como pedirle que se desnuclearice para negociar? O sea, sería como pedirle que entregara su vida antes de negociar. Entonces, ¿cómo poder llegar a este rumbo del engagement sin pedirle estrictamente que se desnuclearice previa negociación? Entonces, yo creo que ahí me gustaría escuchar su opinión de cómo hacer sentar a Corea del Norte en la mesa de negociación sin necesariamente pedirle que se desnuclearice.
Sí, buenas tardes. Miguel Camacho, periodista. Yo tengo dos dudas. Aquí se habló de un tema muy importante que cada día tiende a ser más en boga en toda la opinión pública mundial, sobre la seguridad mundial y las armas nucleares, pero yo quisiera más o menos que se ahondara con respecto a la cuestión de seguridad nacional y religión, puesto que el atentado en Pakistán que se realizó recientemente demuestra que la política tiende a ser un poco más religiosa, o la religión tiende a ser un poco más política, puesto que ese grupo que se adjudicó la autoría de atentado en Pakistán es un grupo que no solo ataca a los talibanes, que son religiosos, sino que se hace más religioso todavía. O sea, yo tiendo a creer que en cuanto a la religión y política, como decían algunos escritores y algunos políticos como Tony Blair, en el siglo XXI va a ser un siglo más religioso todavía, ¿no? Entonces, en ese aspecto, yo siento que se tiende a ahondar más al respecto, en el caso del Medio Oriente. En la cuestión de la península coreana, donde hay un hermetismo completo de Corea del Norte que ha estado desafiando a Estados Unidos, yo quisiera preguntar si, porque hace tiempo se habló de que había unos especie de incentivos de Estados Unidos para Corea del Norte para que detuviera su carrera nuclear mediante alimentos, puesto que existía una carestía de alimentos en Corea del Norte y con eso se calmaban. O sea, yo siento que en cuanto a la cuestión de Corea del Norte, que se va a hacer más agudo el tema, hay cosas que deben declararse. Si fue cierto este incentivo de que Estados Unidos, con darle alimentos para detener su programa nuclear, se entendría un poco, o que esto es una especie de chantaje por parte de Corea del Norte. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Three excellent questions. I feel like I'd like to stand because if I stand, is it okay? You can. Oh, this would be better. Yeah. I want to have eye contact with those who ask questions, and also, in case anybody falls asleep in the back, I'll know that it's stop. Ambassador Navarrete, you asked a very important question regarding what is often called a double standard, that Iran is asked to accept limits on its nuclear program, which it should have a right to do for its civilian energy program, but Israel is not required to accept any limits or even to join the NPT. Isn't this a double standard? And I suppose it is a double standard. I would say that Iran joined the NPT of its own free will, and it violated the NPT. It didn't join the NPT because of Israel, nor did it begin to violate the NPT because of Israel. As I said, that Iran began to develop nuclear technology because it was attacked by Iraq, chemical weapons. And actually, the United States took care of that problem. It invaded Iraq, toppled Saddam, and took care of Iran's immediate security challenge. But then Iran began to talk more and more about destroying Israel. They used words like Israel should be wiped off the map. Israel should disappear from the pages of history. Hearing this, wipe off the map, disappear from pages of history, any Jewish person, wherever he lives, especially in Israel, has to remember the last time somebody talked about wiping off the map Jewish. You know, they remember the Holocaust and they don't want it to happen again. So Israel began to also threaten Iran in retaliation. But I think the threats come more from Iran to Israel than vice versa. It would of course be best, if all of the states in the region accepted nuclear weapons-free status. You referred to all the efforts. I'm sure you were involved in this, promoting the nuclear weapons-free zone in the Middle East. It never succeeded. And I think that we ought to start step by step, and that's why I propose a missile negotiation that would be multilateral. And I think it may be possible for Israel to accept limits on its missile program if Iran accepts limits. And maybe we could start there. And maybe Israel would realize eventually that they don't need nuclear weapons for their security, because the threats to Israel come from the individuals living near its borders, the groups that employ terrorist tactics. Nuclear weapons are of no use against such groups that employ terrorist tactics. Mr. Juarez, you asked, you know the North Korean situation very, very well. I can tell you're a student of the North Korea. I would disagree with you on some of the factual points. I was involved in some of these negotiations in the past myself. I would contend that the United States did not violate the deal like the North Koreans say, although you're correct that in some cases the assistance that the United States promised was delayed. But I know that the U.S. Senate continued to provide the assistance up until 2002, when North Korea's violations were very clear. North Korea began to violate the 1994 deal in about 1997. In about 3 years, they began to violate it. We know this because Pakistan former President Musharraf, in his memoirs, talked about the uranium enrichment technology that Abdul Qadir Khan was providing to North Korea. So North Korea was the first one to violate. They violated the spirit and the letter of the 1994 agreement. You also referred to the 2005 deal, and you correctly noted that North Korea Bank was sanctioned in 2005. The bank in Macau was sanctioned because North Korea was counterfeiting U.S. currency. And no country can allow its currency to be counterfeited. But it's a reasonable debate about whether the U.S. Treasury should have chosen this time to apply the sanction. You might think that the U.S. government was, the right hand and the left hand were not acting in unison. Many governments have this right hand not knowing what the left hand is doing. But it was interesting that the financial sanctions applied to North Korea in 2005 really got their attention. Now, it escalated in a bad way, but it suggests that North Korea is vulnerable to sanctions. And I think the financial measures that are being applied now can get their attention, but they have to be, it has to go tandem with incentives, with engagement. And you're right that Bill Clinton and Madeleine Albright pursued negotiations. In 2000, Madeleine Albright went to North Korea, tried to get a deal on missiles, but ran out of time. And George W. Bush came into office. His Secretary of State, Colin Powell, tried to continue the negotiations, but was vetoed by the President and the Vice President. I think it was unfortunate. I think it wasn't a good outcome. And the North Koreans, they feel kind of bewildered. America changes presidents every 4 or 8 years, and then their policies change. And they say, their policies never change because their presidents never change. This gets to the third point about religion. I think I'm very happy that you mentioned the religion issue. It's just a new idea. I have a new research topic that came to my mind. The importance of religion, or the role of religion in countering weapons of mass destruction. And I think it's important to realize how useful religion was in resolving the Iran problem, or at least reaching a deal. Iran's interpretation of Islam that nuclear weapons are haram provided a basis upon which to build. Too often in the Western societies, we look at Islam as a force for problems, that fundamental Islam is certainly a force of problems, but Islam itself is a religion of peace in most societies and should be recognized as such. North Korea has no religion, it is often said. You know, Mr. Juarez, they have a religion. It's the three Kims. It's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. No, the Father, the Son, and the grandson. They are the religion. The Kim family is the religion in North Korea. It's remarkable. The father, the founder of the country, Kim Il-sung, he died in 1994, but he's still regarded as living eternal life. They celebrated his 100th birthday. There are parallels to Western religion here. And Kim Il-sung, before he died, he said to the son, we should establish relations with the United States. We should overcome the animosity. He said it. And we should, and the nuclear weapons, we could, I don't know exactly what he said about nuclear weapons, but he said something to the effect that we can negotiate the nuclear weapons. So they negotiated a deal in 1994, right after he died. Unfortunately, they didn't keep to this. It's been mentioned that Mr. Komachi mentioned the threats that North Korea feels. Or maybe you also mentioned it, Mr. Juarez. But I think when we think about what is the real threat to North Korea, is it the hostile attitude of the United States, as they always say, or is it the potential for internal unrest? I think it's the latter. I think if you look at what happened to every other communist society except China and North Korea, you see that it's internal developments that can challenge the regime. And that is probably what will happen to North Korea someday. Now that the people understand, because they get information from China. Oh, and from Western missionaries. South Korean Catholic missionaries go to North Korea and try to teach North Koreans about religion. They get arrested, they get thrown in jail, but they're trying to bring information. And information flow can be the biggest challenge to the North Korean regime. So You know, the idea that the United States could provide food, and this is blackmail, persuade them to give up their nuclear weapons. What does a country need nuclear weapons for? It's for defense of the regime. If food can help preserve the regime by providing the people a basis for living, it's not a bad trade-off. It's normal in diplomacy to try to find something that the other side wants in order to give up what you don't want them to have. It's a normal diplomatic practice. It's not blackmail. So I was a diplomat. I kept trying to find, what does North Korea really want? What can we trade them? Diplomatic recognition was one thing. So we offered diplomatic recognition. It turns out they were not so interested in that. They didn't want to have a normal diplomatic transactions. We thought, well, food assistance, because they had famine, food is what they want. No, they didn't want that so much. They want a sense of legitimacy. They want to be respected. Any country wants respect. And they don't want to, they want to feel secure. So in 2005,